And let me ask Prime Minister Madbuli, given the challenges many countries face today, the financing challenges, interest rates, debt overhang, and of course the large financial requirements for meeting the climate finance requirements at country level and the continental level and so on. What would be your suggestion on the best approach? President Afwerki mentioned we should look inwards, we shouldn't look outside. Many said we should look outside. So there are different views. The important thing is we need the money. So from your perspective, what would be the suggestion on how to find the money? Thank you.
Thank you very much, and let me start by stating that climate finance is undeniably the central pillar for empowering the delivery of climate goals and nationally determined contribution, or NDCs, in particular for our African continent. In this regard, allow me to summarize Egypt's vision in this respect as follows. First, climate finance constitutes a cornerstone and foundation for the full implementation of national commitments and contribution as outlined by developing countries, and to the transition to a green economy and addressing climate change issues. International agreements, including the UN FCCC and Paris Agreement, clearly established a direct link between the level of financing provided to developing countries to support their efforts and the level of ambition and national actions. And needless to mention that this does not imply any backsliding from exerting maximum efforts nationally to deliver on ambitious commitment and NDCs, but rather underscores that financing should serve as a key driver and enabler to complement national resources with a clear goal of swift and effective implementation. Secondly, it is essential to deal with the staggering funding gap with a realistic approach and build upon current estimates to enable the implementation of the commitment declared by developing countries, which amount to around 5.6 trillion US dollar by 2030. The required investment in renewable energy alone is approximately $1 trillion annually. Likewise, the amount of international funding needed to achieve carbon neutrality amounts to about $4 trillion US dollar annually. These are the estimates required to implement the scientific recommendation to maintain the 1.5-degree target. Thirdly, this volume of financing underscores the need for a significant overhaul of international financial institutions and multilateral developing banks in alignment with the objective laid out in Sharm el-Sheikh implementation plan. This restructuring should be driven by three core goals: additionality, through increasing climate financing levels without impacting the funding already designated for sustainable development and poverty eradication; accessibility, through facilitating access to climate finance by developing countries without stringent conditions and other obstacles; and right finance instruments, through offering concessional financing instruments and removing, as His Excellency President Ruto mentioned, and removing the unfair and unbalanced rate posed on developing and African countries, including the surcharge imposed by some multilateral development banks. Such a reform should also consider the constraints posed by debt, limited resources for adaptation efforts, the escalating cost of financing due to the interest rate surges, and the collateral requirements to entice global investment. In essence, this approach aims to prevent the deepening of the debt crisis in the developing world and the African continent. Fourthly, there is a need to transform the challenges of debt into an opportunity for innovative financing mechanism. This includes effective mechanism for debt for climate swap, redirecting financing towards developmental and environmental projects, as well as a review of international financial institutions' policies regarding restrictions and fees on loans to developing countries. In this context, we welcome the Bridge Town initiative as a step forward in facilitating financing for developing countries facing the impact of climate change. I would like further highlight Egypt initiatives in partnership with the Economic Commission of Africa on Sustainable Debt Coalition endorsed by African Ministers of Finance, which aim at decreasing the cost of green financing. Those initiatives contribute to the reform of the international financial architecture. We already have the support of more than 22 African countries for the Sustainable Debt Coalition and call for all African countries to join these initiatives. Lastly, it is crucial to explore innovative financing tools, including carbon market and certain fees or taxes on specific activities and economic sectors. But in doing so, and in considering such innovative sources, we need to ensure that they are in line with the international agreements and fully considering its socio-economic implications, particularly on our developing countries. At the same time, ensuring that we are refraining from any unilateral actions that might hinder the competitiveness of our African exports or our ability to attract foreign direct investments. I would like at the end to state that Egypt firmly believes that raising the level of ambition in the new NDCs without a corresponding increase in appropriate financing and a review of current financing mechanism will not contribute to achieving the desired goal, whether in energy transition, emissions reduction, or adaptation. It is imperative that we witness a clear shift in the policies of multilateral financial institutions and development partners in this regard. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Excellency, for that. And I think you just sent a message inviting all African countries who have not yet joined the coalition